Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I am Visala with Lynn, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to sew this jacket blazer that I have on, and it's really easy to make, I promise you, and I'm really excited to show it to you. I hope you're excited to watch it as well, and we'll try this out. And I'm standing up for you to see. Now I have it buttoned, and without further ado, let's get right into it. I made matching skirts as well, and so for the skirt I didn't use pattern for that. I just cut it out freehand, and of course you can expect that it's really easy to. And yeah, so I'll just leave it somewhere here or somewhere in the description. This is the pattern that I cut out in fabric, and at the center front I just left 1/2 inch allowance here and here where I'm going to join it together. However, for the side front and the side back I left 1 inch allowance, just so that I have more to work with at that point. Remember that I drafted this pattern without seam allowances, so at the top here I left 1/2 inch allowance, 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch at the top, 1/2 inch at all the side, and 1 inch again at the hem. You can work with whatever seam allowance you're comfortable with. And because I want this jacket to be more dramatic, so I cut out these. I'm not going to be lining really, so I just cut out this part in satin, just so that when I turn my fabric in the end, it's going to be like this. Okay, I hope you get the idea. So I'm going to turn it with this satin. Take out these papers, pick up these two right sides together, attach it. I kind of put my notches on the waist just so that I don't miss anything, and that the notch helps me align it at the waist. So I'm going to take this to my sewing machine, center front to side front. I'm going to do it for this one, and right sides together, put another pin there, aligning my waist mark. And for this piece, what I'm going to do for this one is sew it along here and do the same. And for this one, first I could decide to sew it right sides together along the neckline. Okay, after which I then sew the side fronts together. For the back, first I'm going to take out these pins, get my pattern paper, and remember that this is one part and the other. I'm going to assemble these two together just so it becomes one piece, and I'm going to sew it all the way. If you like, you may put a facing at the back. Maybe I should do that. Once I sew it all the way, I'm just going to create a small facing for the back, and then I can attach the side fronts together, and with right sides together I pin and I sew along, first sewing this part. The facing is not going to have any seam allowance, so I'm just going to sew it together before I apply the facing. So this is what I'm going to have. I'm going to match this. So this is the back of our jacket. I pressed the seams open, and you could set the ends if you like. And this is what it looks like outside on the right side. So now that we have done that, we can set it aside. And this is the, do I call it lining now, which we're going to use for the front of our jacket. And I just sewed it together at the top, like I said that I would. I just decided to add this interface to give it a little bit of structure. And yeah, so what I'm going to do is clip into this and press it open and iron it, and I'm just going to press it. This is one part of the front piece. I attached one side to the other side, and what I'm going to do next, I want to add pockets to this somewhere on the waistline. So I want the pocket to be something like this. I was having a hard time deciding if I should use the fabric as the pocket or this as the pocket, since this is going to be what is here. But I decided I was going to work with this, and the measurement for this, I have 6 inches straight up here, and at this end I have about 4 inches, and over there I have 3.5 inches. So what I'm going to do, this part that is straight, I'm going to leave it as it is, and I'm going to sew here straight down, and I'm also going to sew it at this point and then flip everything out. Then I'm just going to attach it as a fake pocket here. Again, this is our front piece, and after sewing the pocket and turning it, I just placed it right where I want it to be. And to determine this, you could just, I placed mine 1 inch below my waistline and about 3 inches from the center front inside. But there is no special measurement to this, but just put a pin there, and before you sew it, you probably just want to try it on and see how it's going to fit or something. Like, place it on your body and see if you would like what it looks like. And once you have done that, you're just going to take it to your sewing machine and sew along here and press it down, and it should look something like this. I already did it for this part of the dress, and I think I like how it looks. And then you just really press it down. If this was a serious project, I would like serge here or something, but I'm just showing you. All right, the next thing I'm going to do now is sew the neckline. Sew it like this. Again, I applied interface to this side of the dress because I just wanted it to have some structure. And now I can sew this part together and open it. At this point, we're going to attach the back to the front. So the front is all completed, and I have sewn it here. So how do I do that? Right sides together, okay? Right here, and you're going to match the shoulder seams. And at this other end, I'm going to match the shoulder seams as well. So I'm going to sew it here and sew it here. And this part is going to be left open. And we're going to do the same for this and the back facing. So I'm just going to attach it here. The back facing, I just cut out a little. Oh, I'm recording. My sister just got paid. So I'm just matching the facing to the shoulder seam as well. I decided to put a notch to identify the center part of the back facing, and I'm going to match it with the center part of the front facing. So I could actually sew it in one go, but sew it carefully, please. So first you're going to sew this part, which is the shoulder, and then you're going to sew it one after the other. Then sew this part up until the mid portion of the neckline, and then sew the other mid portion up until you get to this point, and then sew this out all the way again. So you sew it section by section. So section 1. Now I'm sewing section 2 now, all the way to the midpoint of the neck. Now I'm going to the third section, which is from the mid part up until the intersection. The intersection between the shoulder slope and the neckline. So I lift my foot and I turn it. For the front, another way you could do it, if you don't want to do it all at once, is to take it one by one. I attached the shoulder seams together already. Hope you can see. And now I just have the neck left open. So I'm going to flip it right sides together again. And I have this, which is going to tell me it's my center, which should exactly match with this part right here. So I'm just going to pin it together like this. And now I can go sew the neckline all the way down. And so this is it now. So I'm going to clip into this part. Be sure not to cut into your garment. I just want to make it easier. So just clip into the intersection point. Okay, just so this is what my neckline looks like now. Next thing I'm going to do now is attach the main fabric to satin piece. Also, this is the satin part, I just placed it right sides together, and I'm aligning all the marks, pinning it all the way, because I am going to sew it now. So from this end, I'm going to sew it all the way. Remember how your notch is still going to be there, so you're going to sew it straight down once you get to your notch part, and then you just keep sewing it like this. And remember that we are sewing it by 1/2 inch because that was what we left out initially. So you're just going to sew it all the way to this point and all the way to the other end. And once I sew it all around, I decided to snip into it since there's a curve here, just so that it turns nicely. And now we're going to turn it over to the right side. Another thing you can do is top stitch. Now I'm going to turn it over first of all. So now I just turned it roughly, and you can see that there's some of the fabric showing at the neckline, and you really don't want this. So but I haven't pressed it. Once you press it, it's going to look way better than this. And what you can do is top stitch. Usually we will top stitch on the lining so that it doesn't show on the right side, so that you don't have this, so everything just sits inside. With this color, I want to mention that if you want to top stitch, you do not top stitch on the satin, okay, because it's going to show outside. So from this part, before the breaking point, you top stitch on the satin, okay, but once you get to the breaking point, what you're going to top stitch on is the Ankara itself. Okay, I hope that this makes sense, because you don't want the top stitch line to show here since the satin is visible here. Meanwhile, at this point, the Ankara is visible and you don't want any stitch outside. That's why you top stitch on the satin. And from the breaking point upwards, you top stitch on the fabric, not on the satin. I'm not going to do it, so I'm just going to press it really well. No top stitching for me, but that's one thing that you can do. So I have ironed it, and now you can see that this part is open. This is the neckline, and you really don't want that. What we're going to do about this is to flip it up and pick the seam allowances at the neckline, pin it down, and you're just going to sew it together. And that way it's going to keep it from being detachable. I'm just going to sew it, and the same thing I'm going to do for here, which is attached to the shoulder. So the only thing you're attaching is the seam allowances. All right, so you just do that, and that way you're sure that everything is going to be held together in place. And if this was a serious project, again, you want to make sure that you serge this part, and of course everywhere will be serged inside. And also at this point, you're going to serge it. Okay, so at this point, what I want to do now is close the edge. I just don't want to like fold it over like this and just sew it. So what I'm going to do, since I have this facing, is to fold it over like this and stitch it down by whatever my seam allowance is down, which is about 1 inch. So I'm just going to stitch it up until I get to this point and bring it inside out. And once I do that, this is what I will have. And in the end, I can fold it like this and just go to sew it, and that's just a fine way to finish this. And we have to insert or fix our sleeves at this point. Cut the sleeve separately and insert it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you found it useful and helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment. I'm happy to respond to them, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.